Happy Halloween to all, and welcome to a very special Edgar Markov deck tech, because this is DIO Brando, proxy custom of, you guessed it, Edgar Markov. Let's read our commander's abilities and take a look at our deck. Edgar Markov is a 6-cost, 3, a red, a white, and a black for a 4/4 Vampire Knight. Legendary creature with Eminence. When you cast another vampire spell, if Edgar Markov is in the command zone or on the battlefield, create a 1/1 black vampire creature token. Edgar Markov has first strike and haste, and whenever he attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. Now, I got this epic custom from Etsy, and I built a whole vampire deck around it with some of my own custom artwork. So let's take a look at this DIO Brando deck. Alright, starting off with our creatures. We have an Indulgent Aristocrat, a 1/1 Vampire Noble with lifelink and pay 2. Sacrifice a creature. Put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. Very good to sacrifice your vampire tokens to buff your vampire army for only 2 mana. We have a Falcon Wrath Pit Fighter. Pay 1 and a red to discard a card, sacrifice a vampire, draw 2 cards. Activate this ability only if an opponent lost life this turn. We have another proxy of my favorite Joestar, Joseph Joestar. This is Norn the Wary, so whenever a player casts a spell or a creature attacks, remove Joseph Joestar from the game. Return him to its owner's control at the end of the turn, and he has, oh my god! So I love this proxy, and this is kind of a fun card in here. It goes with another card you'll see later. Viscera Seer is a 1/1 vampire for 1. Sacrifice a creature, scry 1. We have a Gouldraz Assassin. You can level him up to give -2 or -4 to a target creature. Alright, this is my first custom proxy. Master of Dark Rites is a 1/1 vampire with the ability to sacrifice another creature, add 3 black mana, spend this line to cast vampires and other tokens. This is one of my proxies I made. This is one of the stand users in DIO's entourage. Pulse Tracker. Whenever Pulse Tracker attacks, each opponent loses 1 life. Vicious Conquistador. Whenever Vicious Conquistador attacks, each opponent also loses 1 life. You'll see a lot of 1-drop vampires. They just really help with Edgar Markov's ability to greatly grow your vampire army pretty quick. Blood Artist, combo piece in the deck. Whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain a life. Cruel Celebrant, kind of like the Blood Artist. Whenever a Cruel Celebrant or another creature or planeswalker you control dies, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. Cordial Vampire. Whenever a Cordial Vampire or another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. Very good in this deck. You can sacrifice your tokens with Viscera Seer to buff your army of vampires. The Oathsworn Vampire is a combo piece in this deck. It enters the battlefield tapped, and you may cast it from your graveyard if you gain life this turn. So this is a combo piece in this deck. We'll explain the combos later. Charismatic Conqueror is a pretty, kind of an expensive 2-drop actually, because he has this kind of like a tax ability, kind of slows your opponents down whenever an artifact or creature enters the battlefield untapped under an opponent's control. They may tap it. If they don't tap it, you get a vampire with lifelink, a 1/1. Vampire Socialite. Menace. Vampire Socialite enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 on it if an opponent lost life this turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. Then as long as the opponent lost life this turn, other vampires you control enter the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on them. I do have some pretty cool Draculas here. We have the Dracula the Bloodlord. Is a 2/1 flying Voldaren Bloodcaster or another non-token creature you control dies, make a blood token. When you create a blood token, if you control 5 or more blood tokens, you can transform your Dracula. Then we have a Dracula Blood Immortal. A Falcon Wrath Forebearer. It's a flying 3/1 that can't be blocked, and then whenever he deals combat damage, make a blood token. Sacrifice 2 blood tokens to return him from the graveyard to the battlefield. Captivating Vampire, one of the best vampires in the deck. He buffs your vampires And you can tap 5 untapped vampires to gain control of target creature. So steal your opponent's commanders. Forerunner of the Legion is a vampire knight. When he enters the battlefield, search your library for a vampire. It is probably going to be a captivating vampire or one of your combo piece vampires. And then whenever another vampire enters the battlefield under your control, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. This is one of the vampires you probably search for. Veto of the Dusk Rose. This is a combo piece in the deck. So whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life, and you can pay 5 creatures you control gain a lifelink. He is a 1/3, and like I said, I drew this myself, custom proxy made by me. And as you may have noticed, he is one of the Pillar Men. Vampire Nighthawk, flying death touch lifelink. Love Vampire Nighthawk. Florian, you get to basically, at the beginning of your post-combat main phase, look at top X cards of your library, where X is the amount of life your opponent's lost this turn. Then you may exile one of those cards, put the rest at the bottom, and you may play that exiled card until the end of the turn. So he basically helps you dig through your deck for your combo pieces. This was my commander before I decided to go DIO. Stormkirk Captain. Vampires get bigger and have first strike. Welcoming Vampire. Whenever one or more creatures with power 2 or less enter the battlefield under your control, draw the card. Sadly, it only triggers once a turn. Drana, Liberator of Malakir. Flying first strike. Whenever she deals combat damage, put a +1/+1 counter on each attacking creature you control. Twilight Prophet. Flying Ascend at the beginning of your upkeep. If you have the city's blessing, reveal the top card, put it in your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to the mana value or the converted mana cost of that card. Drana and Lenvala. Activated abilities of your opponent's creatures they control cannot be activated. Drana and Lenvala has all activated abilities of all creatures your opponents control. Spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate those abilities. That's pretty crazy. Sanctum Seeker. Whenever a vampire you control attacks, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. This helps you obviously in the commander format. If you swing out on one of your opponents, your other opponents will also lose life. So very good against multiple opponents. Bloodline Keeper makes vampire tokens. Kalidas, the Trader of Guest. I just really like this card. I used to play it way back in the day. Has lifelink. Whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, instead exile it and then make a 2/2 zombie token. So whenever you kill your opponent's creatures, they get exiled instead of being in their graveyard. And you may sacrifice another creature to a vampire or a zombie to make this guy bigger. And he has lifelink. Alright, Perforos. This is the combo-ish card with our Joseph Joestar. Where did he go? Alright, so we have cards here. We have Joseph Joestar, the main villain and the main protagonist of the season they were in. So Perforos, if you don't know Perforos, he is a legendary god, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, target opponent loses 2 life. So you can, with Norn the Wary, whenever basically anything happens, he gets exiled and he comes back, and then Perforos will deal damage to your opponent. So that's kind of like a combo-ish. It's really hard to get rid of Norn the Wary because every time a player casts a spell, he's basically he just vamooses. So unless there's some kind of activated ability of one of your artifacts or something that gets rid of him, he's basically really hard to get rid of. And every time you do something, Perforos, which is a indestructible god, will deal 2 damage to you. So very fun, slow burn combo. But Perforos is great in a token deck because whenever you make a token, Perforos will deal 2 damage. Alright, Angie, Maid of Dishonor. Whenever she or another vampire enters the battlefield, you make a blood token. Baron Bertram Greywater. Whenever one or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, make an additional 1/1 black vampire rogue creature token with lifelink. Sadly, this ability only triggers once a turn, but then you can pay 1 and a black to sacrifice a creature or an artifact to draw a card. Very useful drawing cards. Olivia Voldaren. Oh man, amazing vampire. Basically does all the things a vampire would do. She deals 1 damage to another target creature. That creature becomes a vampire. Then you put a counter on her. Then you can gain control of the vampire as long as you control Olivia. Bloodthirsty Conqueror, also one of the Pillarmen. And then he has, whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. He has Flying and Death Touch, and he's a 5/5. So he combos with our other Pillarman to... If you have these two on the battlefield, this is a combo. As long as you make an opponent lose a life, this will set off a chain reaction that will kill the whole table. All your opponents will die if these two are not dealt with instantly. So as long as they're on the table together and you have some way to deal damage to an opponent, this will create an infinite cycle of an opponent losing life and you gaining life, and then whenever you gain life, they lose life, and whenever they lose life, you gain life, and just until they all die. So that is one of the 2 card combos in this deck. So Veto and then the Bloodthirsty Conqueror. Alright, continuing on here. Draina, the Last Blood Chief, flying. Whenever she attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary creature card in their graveyard. You return that card to the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. It's a vampire, so whenever she attacks, you get something out of their graveyard. Malakir Bloodwitch, flying, protection from white. Whenever she enters the battlefield, each opponent loses life equal to the number of vampires you control, and you gain the amount of life lost this way. Champion of Dusk, whenever Champion of Dusk enters the battlefield, draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of vampires you control. So you have to be careful with this. If you have too many vampires, yeah, you can kill yourself. Alright, Vein Ripper, another stand user from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, is a 6-cost flying 6/5. He has Ward, sacrifice a creature, and then he has whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Notice this says target creature. It doesn't mean your creature, it means any creature. So whenever any creature dies, and a target opponent is going to lose life and you're going to gain life. Necropolis Regent, 6 mana, 6/5 flying. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. I was debating on keeping this card in. It's kind of like an overkill, but basically, yeah, as long as this triggers, your vampires will just get bigger and bigger increasingly so. So, you know, I kept it in. I really like the art. Very pretty art. Alright, Olivia, the Crimson Bride, 6-cost, 3/4 flying haste. Whenever she attacks, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking. It gains, whenever you don't control a legendary vampire, exile that creature. So this helps you get stuff back out of your graveyard. So if they kill any of your key vampires, you can get them back. Kalitas, the Blood Chief of Guest, is a legendary vampire warrior 5/5, and for 3 black mana, tap and destroy target creature. If that creature is put into a graveyard, put a black vampire creature token onto the battlefield. Yeah, okay, so Kalitas the Blood Chief is a 7-drop 5/5 legendary creature vampire warrior and has this ability: pay 3 black mana, destroy target creature. If that creature is put into a graveyard this way, put a black vampire creature token onto the battlefield. Its power is equal to the creature's power, and its toughness is equal to the creature's toughness. So it's basically just a removal, and then you get something out of it, a vampire. Last vampire in the deck is the Butcher Malakir, also a 7-drop flying. When Butcher Malakir, another creature you control, dies, each opponent must sacrifice a creature. So this is a good way to control the amount of enemy creatures on the board. Whenever this or another of your creature dies, they must sacrifice a creature. You have lots of tokens you can sacrifice with lots of different ways to basically make your opponent sacrifice their creatures as well. Alright, that's it for the creatures.
It can't be! A stone mask! And there are so many of them!
Next up, we have the artifacts, and starting off with probably one of the best cards in our deck, the Skull Clamp, is an equipment. It costs 1 to cast, 1 to equip, and it gives a creature +1/-1. When that creature dies, you draw 2 cards. Notice this is the Stone Mask from the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and we have 1/1 tokens that we're very willing to sacrifice with our Skull Clamp to draw cards. Next, we have the Phyrexian Altar. Is a 3 mana cost artifact that allows you to sacrifice a creature, make a mana of any color. This is a necessary piece for one of our combos. Chrome Mox, mana, Soul Ring, really fun art I drew here. We got the 2 rings that are put inside Joseph Joestar. So yeah, there's our Soul Ring. Obviously just mana, add 2 mana. Orzhov Signet. We have our Arcane Signet. Poor Joseph Joestar has that pesky stand user stuck to his arm. So I thought that was pretty fitting for the Arcane Signet. Then we have a Mox Diamond, and that's all of our artifacts. Next up, we have our enchantments. We have our Legion's Landing. It is a 1-drop legendary enchantment. Whenever it enters the battlefield, make a vampire, 1/1 white vampire creature token with lifelink. And then when 3 or more creatures attack, you can transform it. It turns into a land that taps for white mana and also gives you the ability to create tokens. Next up, we have our 2-card combo, Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond. So if you have these 2 cards on the battlefield, you basically will win the game on the spot as long as you can deal 1 damage to an opponent. So it's basically the same combo as Veto and the Bloodthirsty Conqueror, except these are enchantments instead of creatures. Enchantments are typically harder to get rid of than creatures, so this is like a redundant 2-card combo. And then our last enchantment is Smothering Tithe. Yeah, we like making treasure, and we like taxing our opponents for drawing cards. Next up, we have the sorceries and instances. We have a Ruinous Ultimatum. Destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. That is very mean.
Mythos of Snapdex.
So as long as you pay the black and the red and the white, you get to each player chooses an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and planeswalker from among the non-land permanents they control. Then they sacrifice the rest. If you pay the black and the red, you get to choose those permanents for each player instead. So as long as, because we're in these colors, we're definitely going to cast this for this additional cost. So since we're in all these colors, we're definitely going to do that. And then we get to choose what permanents our opponents get to keep. So it's a very mean DIO thing to do, I think, and I really like the art. Then we have an Austere Command. Black is notoriously has a hard time of getting rid of enchantments, so I really like this Austere Command. Will let you get rid of the enchantments our opponents control. We have a Read the Bones. Obviously, I did some pretty cool art on this. Haunting Voyage allows us to choose a creature type. In this case, we would choose vampires, and then we pay the foretell cost, so we get all of our vampires back out of our graveyard, straight to the battlefield. So this is a cool, like, get all your vampires back spell. Diabolic Intent, sacrifice a creature, search your library for a card. Village Rites, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. Really love the Japanese art on this one. Vampiric Tutor, pay 2 life, search your library for a card, shuffle your library, put that card on top. Rakdos Charm. Wow, this has saved me in quite a few scenarios. So you have 3 modes on here: exile all cards from a player's library, destroy target artifact, or the part that can win you the game is each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. So if you're playing against a token deck and they somehow have a lot more creatures than you, you can use that ability to basically kill them. Path to Exile. Exile's something you don't like. They get a land, but hey, you got it exiled. Bloodline Calling. Target creature gets -5, -5, or creature tokens get -2, -2. So it's a pretty good 3 mana way to wipe the board of small creature tokens. Slaughter Pact. Destroy target non-black creature. You have to pay 3 or you lose the game. But, you know, it is an instant speed, 0 cost spell. And I think it's pretty fitting with the DIO there. That is the last instant or sorcery. Next up we have the mana base. Alright, we have 2 plains, 3 swamps, 3 mountains. We have my custom plateau here. Concealed Courtyard, Clifftop Retreat, Cavern of Souls, the Bleachborn Verge, new card from the Aether Drift, Ancient Tomb, Temple of Silence, Seer Step Pathway. This is our Badlands. Really fun art I did on that one. Sulphurous Mire, Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, Battlefield Forge, Rakdos Carnarium, Dragon Skull Summit, Fabled Passage, Phyrexian Tower, Sunbillow Verge, Blazemire Verge, Vault of Champions, Command Tower, Luxury Suite, Fury Calm Snarl, Caves of Koilos, Isolated Chapel, Savai Triome, and a Sacred Foundry. So that concludes the entire list. Got these really cool sleeves. Alright, next up we have a little bit more complicated. We need to have one of these. We need to have a Phyrexian Altar. An Oathsworn Vampire needs to be on the battlefield or in our graveyard. Then we need to have a Blood Artist or a Crew Celebrant on the battlefield. And then we need to sacrifice our Oathsworn Vampire to our Phyrexian Altar. That'll trigger one of our guys here, our Cruel Celebrant or our Blood Artist, to cause an opponent to lose a life and gain a life. That'll give us the ability to cast our Vampire, Oathsworn Vampire, for our graveyard, because there is life lost this turn. Whenever we cast this from our graveyard, our commander's Eminence ability will trigger creating a token. So we'll have a tapped Oathsworn Vampire. We'll have a token, and we'll still have our Phyrexian Altar. So we sacrifice these two, the token and the Oathsworn, to the Phyrexian Altar again. That'll give us the 2 mana we need to cast him again from the graveyard. So this will continue. Every time we cast him from the graveyard, he'll come with a token, which we can sacrifice both of them, and our Blood Artist or our cruel, our very evil Celebrant. They will drain the table of life. So that is another combo we can use to win the game. So it's kind of like the Gravecrawler, if you know the Phyrexian Altar Gravecrawler combo. It's kind of the same, except we use this Oathsworn Vampire instead of our Gravecrawler, because obviously we're not playing zombies. Last but not least, we have Vito and the Bloodthirsty Conqueror. As long as these two are on the battlefield, it's the same deal as the Sanguine Bond and the Exquisite Blood. So this is the same thing, except these are creatures and these are not creatures. So this is the same combo, except this has creatures and this is just enchantments. So as long as you can cause an opponent to lose a life, they drain the whole table and they all die and you win. So you just need these on the board. These two, or a combination of the two. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed this video of DIO Brando, my my commander for Edgar Markov. And these are the 1/1 tokens I designed to enter the battlefield whenever you cast a vampire. So we have our tarot card 1/1 tokens here. So some pretty cool tokens I've been working on for our vampire 1/1s. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. There will be a Moxfield link in the description below. Happy Halloween. Adios.